What is going on, you guys? Brendan Esguerra here, and today I'm going to be talking about Avengers Infinity War, and of course, Spider-Man in the MCU. But here's the thing. There's a warning. I am going to be saying a lot of negative things about Spider-Man in the MCU. And for any of you who have never seen Avengers Infinity War yet, there are spoilers. So if any of you who are watching are fans of Spider-Man in the MCU, and maybe any of you who have never seen Avengers Infinity War yet and are super hyped up about it, stop watching this video. You have been warned. Viewer discretion is advised. So I was on this news site and it talked about Avengers Infinity War, and boy, it's quite shocking and it's not good. Spider-Man dies in Infinity War because some part in the movie, Thanos snaps his fingers with the Infinity Gauntlet and fades several heroes, including Spidey, out of existence and into oblivion. I'm not joking. Like, what were they thinking? They bought Spider-Man from Sony, so that means the Amazing Spider-Man 3 is cancelled, along with the Sinister Six spin-off, and the new Venom movie was put on hiatus. I mean, what was Marvel thinking? They bought Spider-Man and had to include a new Spider-Man played by Tom Holland in Civil War, and they started on the new Spider-Man reboot, Spider-Man Homecoming. Now that as he returns in Infinity War, Spider-Man dies? I mean, I also read that Marvel is killing Spider-Man off the MCU. They said that they're no longer going to have any more plans for him after the sequel to Homecoming and, of course, the Venom movie. But what's the point of making the sequel to Homecoming? Spider-Man already died in Avengers Infinity War. So there's no point in making a sequel. And they also had no plans for him because now Spider-Man is dead. And I mean all of the movies. So that means there are gonna be no more movies for Spider-Man. At least no more movies that are live action. So that means Marvel has really crossed the line. They've betrayed us. They were trying to make up for when The Amazing Spider-Man 2 failed, and instead of making The Amazing Spider-Man 3, they rebooted him again with Civil War and Homecoming. But when he was in Infinity War and he dies, it seems like there aren't going to be any more movies of Spider-Man at all. So that means no more Amazing Spider-Man 3, and not only that, no more sequel for Spider-Man Homecoming. And for the new Venom movie, what's the point of making the sequel to Homecoming and, of course, the Venom movie without Spider-Man? I mean, without Spider-Man, there isn't gonna be a Venom movie. And it's just like having the Joker without Batman. I just gotta hope Batman doesn't die in any of the new DC Extended Universe movies, because they're doing a new Batman reboot simply titled The Batman. So they better not kill Batman 2. At least DC never said anything like that, but you'll never know. And they've And not only that, Spider-Man Homecoming wasn't really good to begin with because the Amazing Spider-Man movies were already good, and not just in my opinion. I mean, The Amazing Spider-Man, yes, it did have a few inaccuracies, such as Harry Osborn becoming the Green Goblin first instead of his dad, Norman Osborn, because Norman died in the beginning, and of course, Dr. Ashley Kafka being a man, while in the comics, Dr. Kafka was a woman. And of course, and then there's the fact that Dr. Curtis Connors, the Lizard, is a British character, while in the comics, he's supposed to be an American scientist. And of course, the fact that Peter Parker was portrayed as a skateboarding hipster rather than a nerd. But then again, aside from those inaccuracies, I actually got over them, and I actually liked the way the Amazing Spider-Man films were. And I actually think they do deserve an Amazing Spider-Man 3. And also the fact that Spider-Man Homecoming made even less money than The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Which reminds me, I also have a list about things that I don't like about Spider-Man in the MCU. And I'm gonna go over them. Okay, number 10, they rebooted Spider-Man again, even though The Amazing Spider-Man was already good. Yeah, the Amazing Spider-Man films were already good, and not just in my opinion. And, you know, what I think about when I think about true Spidey fans is usually people who actually like The Amazing Spider-Man. It's because they understand how great it actually is, and that they see the world more clearer. And number 9, that stupid, tacky, Stark Tech Spidey suit with those goofy CGI eye lenses, those crazy arc reactors, and those practically useless web wings. Since when does a Spider-Man suit have animated eye lenses? Well, not in any of the live-action Spider-Man movies. And of course, those crazy arc reactors, sometimes with Spider-Man, less is more. And those web wings, well, I know he originally had those in the comics, but they served no purpose. Stan Lee and Steve Ditko thought it looked cool on him, and they were just there for decoration. And also, it was back in the 1960s when you weren't a superhero unless you had a cape. Superman had his big red swooshy cape with the S on it, and Batman had his bat-winged fringed cape. So they decided to give Spider-Man those web wings, and they were just meant for decoration and as part of the costume. Besides, later on, they got rid of the web wings because Spider-Man actually looked better without them. Besides, he doesn't need wings because he could just swing from webs because spiders do not fly. And number 8, the new Venom movie doesn't make any sense. From what I saw, the new Venom movie is actually going to be pretty good. But without The Amazing Spider-Man 3, or at least considering what happened in Infinity War, the Venom movie won't make any sense without Spider-Man at all, considering it's in its own universe called Sony's Marvel Universe, or as I like to call it, the Amazing Spider-Man Universe, or the TASM-U. But without The Amazing Spider-Man 3, or at least Spider-Man at all, the Venom movie just won't make sense. And number 7... Tom Holland's annoying girly voice. Yes, Tom Holland is actually British, and I know he's trying to pull an American accent, but the way he does it, he sounds really childish, annoying, and girly. It makes him sound like a girl. It's like ear rape. And number 6, Michelle Gonzalez. In all of the Spider-Man comics I've read, I have never seen a character named Michelle Gonzalez. I'm pretty sure they made her up just for the movie. And number 5, Peter's best friend is not Harry Osborn. In the comics, Peter's best friend has always been Harry Osborn, while in Spider-Man Homecoming, it was a fat Asian kid named Ned. And in the comics, Spider-Man's best friend wasn't some fat Asian kid named Ned. It was Harry Osborn. And I'm pretty sure Ned was made as a stand-in for Harry Osborn. So maybe the new Green Goblin in the MCU could be an Asian Green Goblin. That Green Goblin being Ned's dad. And number 4, Peter works for Tony Stark, not J. Jonah Jameson. In the comics, Peter's part-time job was working as a photographer for J. Jonah Jameson in the Daily Bugle, while in the movie, he ends up working for Tony Stark. Oh my god, Tony Stark's a billionaire, and I highly doubt he would give any of his money he invested in his suits and everything to a kid who lives with his aunt named Peter Parker. And it actually makes Tony Stark seem like a pedophile. And why would some teenager work for a billionaire if they could easily get a part-time job? Like how Peter Parker actually makes money for taking photos for J. Jonah Jameson at the Daily Bugle so he can pay the rent for his Aunt May and his now deceased Uncle Ben. And at number 3, Peter Parker can't even make his own Spidey suit. Well, in the movie Spider-Man Homecoming, Tony Stark ends up taking away Peter Parker's Spidey suit, and Peter Parker, played by Tom Holland, mentioned he is nothing without the suit. God, what's wrong? In the comics, Peter Parker actually did get his own Spidey suit. He actually made it out of some red and blue fabric, and of course those homemade eye lenses and web shooters. But in Spider-Man Homecoming, it seemed like he couldn't, like as if Peter Parker isn't as smart as he's supposed to be. I mean, Peter Parker is supposed to be a science nerd. And when he does make his own Spidey suit, it doesn't involve any red and blue spandex and good eye lenses and shoe soles, like in the original Spider-Man trilogy, and of course, The Amazing Spider-Man. No, his homemade suit in Homecoming is literally made out of a bunch of red and blue clothing that he ended up getting from the thrift store. And it looks just as crappy as the Stark Tech suit. And about the Stark Tech suit, I know Tony Stark is a billionaire and he made his Iron Man suit pretty well. But when he tries making a Spider-Man suit, I'm sorry, but he failed. He did terrible. And I think Tony Stark should save his money and go back to making those exoskeletons. You know, his Iron Man Mark III and the Hulkbuster and everything. And number 2. Speaking of the whole iron thing, number 2, an iron spider suit that's inaccurate to the comics. I mean, in the comics, Spider-Man's iron spider suit was all, just red and gold. With mechanical spider legs on his back and a much more simpler but decent design, while in Infinity War, Spidey gets an Iron Spider suit that's completely inaccurate to the comics. It looks exactly the same as the one in Homecoming, but even more crappier. And also crazier with those horrible color choices. And it does not look anything like the one in the comics. I mean, sure, the Iron Spider suit is all red and gold, and it has a much more simpler design, but at least it's decent and not really that crazy like the one in Infinity War. And speaking of Infinity War, number 1, Spider-Man dies in Infinity War. Yeah, first, they bought Spider-Man from Sony, so The Amazing Spider-Man 3 is cancelled, along with the Sinister Six spin-off, and put the Venom movie on hiatus. And then, we even got a crappy, somewhat bastardized, goofy, and childish depiction of Spider-Man in Spider-Man Homecoming, and then in Infinity War, he dies? I'm sorry, it's too much, and they have gone too far. Now, they've really crossed the line. You know what? Stop watching any more new movies in the MCU. Look what they did to Spider-Man! And they finally killed him. So for any of you, for the love of God and all things holy, and for a beloved superhero like Spider-Man, stop watching any more movies in the MCU. Wake up! Open your eyes and quit living in a dream. Because it's just a bad dream. You know what? I really want to go back to, with The Amazing Spider-Man and The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Because back then, times were simple. It seemed so much simpler, and at least in The Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man didn't die. But we don't know what happened to him after The Amazing Spider-Man 2. But this time, about my Amazing Spider-Man 3 project, it will now support CBS. And hopefully CBS does buy Spider-Man so they might make Spider-Man great again. And it doesn't have to be, The Amazing Spider-Man 3, but if they did, I really want it to be a made-for-TV movie exclusively on CBS. But if they're not gonna do that, it would be a lot better if they made a better reboot of Spider-Man. So where Peter Parker, Spider-Man didn't die, and it has no connection with Infinity War or the MCU. I know what Marvel was doing was a good choice by including Spider-Man in the MCU, but the way they done it, they did terrible. I just got hope when CBS buys Spider-Man, even if they couldn't do The Amazing Spider-Man 3, they could do a new, even better reboot where Peter Parker doesn't die and where Peter Parker can actually make his own Spidey suit, this time a better Spidey suit that doesn't have those goofy CGI eye lenses, those arc reactors, and those useless web wings. Instead, just a normal, all-in-one bodysuit that's red and blue, with real eye lenses, foot soles, and web shooters. And with Spider-Man just simply swinging from webs, climbing walls, and shooting webs. And I also want the new Spider-Man reboot to be more like The Amazing Spider-Man. Because the Amazing Spider-Man films were actually better, and I want to go back to them because time seems so much more simple. So please, for the love of God and all things holy, And in the name of Spider-Man, where great power comes great responsibility, stop watching any more movies from the MCU. In fact, I'm gonna start a new project on Kickstarter. This time, not only Sony buys Spider-Man back, but also the entire MCU, including Black Widow, Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, the Hulk, and yeah. So they could have better movies and better depictions of them, so they can be part of the Sony's Marvel Universe, or should I say, the Amazing Spider-Man Universe, or TASMU. I just gotta hope Sony, when they not only buy Spider-Man back, but also the entire MCU, I hope they do a better job, because this! I think I want to just, I think I'm done with this video and I want to move on. Because I kind of want to go back to the Amazing Spider-Man movies, because times seemed much more simple. And, and I'm doing this for the love of a certain beloved wall-crawling, web-slinging, wisecracking superhero that is Spider-Man. And I sure hope any of you, any true Spidey fans watching this, will support my new Kickstarter project, in which Sony not only buys Spider-Man, but also the entire MCU. Integrating Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, the Hulk, Black Widow, all the Avengers, and integrate them into Sony's Marvel Universe. Or should I say the TASM Universe? I mean, the Amazing Spider-Man Universe, or TASMU. That's gonna be my new project. So until then, have an awesome day and I hope you like it. Peace out. This has been Brendan Esguerra signing off. Peace out.